Hello guys, and welcome to my channel. In this tutorial we're learning how to draw a complete building plan from the ground floor to the roof plan. And if that is something that sounds like what you're interested in, then consider subscribing and then click on the notification icon to get updates on my latest video. So in the part 1 of this tutorial we are able to learn how to create a ground floor plan in AutoCAD, which we have here. And then in the part 2 of this tutorial we're going to learn how to create the first floor plan from the layout of the ground floor plan, which we have here. And so if you have not watched part 1 of this tutorial, then I will leave the link of the video for part 1 in the description of this video so that you can watch it before you proceed to part 2 of this tutorial. Okay, so this is the plan we are working on, and for us to get started with this drawing, again I'll go to my layers. As I told you, before you start your drawing you have to set your unit, your dimension, and then your layers. Okay, so I've already created layers for all the elements that are contained in this plan. So again I have to go to my layers and I'll turn off some element which I don't want so that I can have space. So I'm going to turn off elevation, I'm going to turn off the roof, and then I'll come back to this drawing. So I will select this text elevations and then hide it. So go to where you have isolate object icon and select hide object. Now I'm left with the ground floor plan and the first floor plan of this very building plan. Okay, so again go to the layer and then turn off some elements. I want to turn off the block, I want to turn off the text, and I want to turn off the stair. Likewise, I want to turn off the wardrobe. Okay, then the next thing I'm going to do, I will turn on the dimension. So now we have these dimensions and we're going to work with these dimensions. Then to make this tutorial easy for us, we can make reference to this dimension and then draw the different parts that are contained in this building plan. Okay, so before we get started, we have to draw our plan from the layout of the ground floor plan. So let me turn on the text layer again. So let me turn on text. So we have the ground floor plan this way and we have the first floor plan this other way. So if you're going to draw the first floor plan, then we have to consider the layout of the ground floor plan, and then that will serve as a reference for drawing the first floor plan. And another thing you're going to consider is the elements that are connected from the ground floor plan to the first floor plan. And in that case we have the stair hall. So the stair hall is going to maintain its position in the first floor plan. So again, let's hide the text. And then to get started with this, first I will turn off these dimensions so that we can trace the layout of this very plan. So select your polyline tool and draw, as in the case where we draw the outer wall this way. Mark out the layout of the ground floor plan. And when you're done with that, you can now select this polyline which you have created for the layout of the ground floor plan. We are now going to copy it to a different position. Then we now making use of this as a reference for drawing our first floor plan. Remember, this is the ground floor plan layout. Then another thing we're going to consider is the stair hall. If you turn on the text, you're going to see the stair hall or the stair where it is being located. Now the stair is going to remain in its position, it's not going to be changed. Okay, so we're going to copy this or make reference to the stair hall location as well. So we go to our text and turn it off once again. Then we go back and we're going to draw another polyline for the stair hall. So we draw from here to this point and to this point and to this point, and we close it and then we press enter. Now we can copy this. We're going to copy the polyline we created for the outer layout of this ground floor plan, and then the polyline for the stair hall. We're going to copy that to a different location, so we can zoom and then copy from this position to any position on the canvas. Okay, so when we are done with that, we'll go to this plan and we will offset inside. Remember, we offset outside for the wall thickness, so this time around we're going to offset inside to get the thickness of the wall. So we type O for offset command and then type 225 millimeters and press enter, and we can offset inside. So if that was done correctly, you see that the inside wall thickness is going to correspond with the layout of the stair hall which we have created earlier. Okay, so now we've been able to copy the layout of the ground floor plan. We can now erase this. We don't actually need this anymore, so select that. We can erase it, or we go to isolate object and then hide object. Okay, so when you're done with that, you can now select this layout and then return it back to this position where we can be able to see. Okay, so now we have the layout of the ground floor plan. Now we're going to turn on the dimension. Okay, so you can see we still have the dimension of the plan we drew earlier, so we're going to erase that. So we're going to select all of these. First of all, we're going to select these dimensions, or we can remove our plan, then select dimensions and then delete it. Okay, so we select this plan and then we move out of this position up this way. We go to our dimension, turn on dimension, and then we can select this entire dimension which we don't want and we erase it. So we go back again and return our layout for the ground floor plan. So we move that and we're going to move it somewhere to this position. So now we have this. Now this is the first floor plan which I have created. Okay, so I'm going to make reference to this very plan, and then from the dimensions which I have, I will now use it to create the various sections that are contained in this plan. So I'm going to select a rectangle tool at this point, and remember this is the edge where we have the inside wall. So from here I'll click and I'll drag, enter the dimension of this very section, which is 3400 millimeters by 3600 millimeters, and I'll press enter. Then I'll repeat rectangle tool, and the next thing I have is a portion, this portion here. So I'm going to take reference from here and I'll enter offset distance of 225. Remember that was for wall thickness, and then I'll enter the dimension of this to be 1000 or 2000 in X direction, and then 1400 in the Y direction, and I'll press enter. So we can again zoom in to see these various sections very well. Okay, so when we are done with that, we can again repeat rectangle tool and take reference from here for wall thickness 225 millimeters, and we can now connect these 2 points which we have with this. Okay, so we're going to have this. Now after that, pick the rectangle tool again from this point. We're going to draw towards this way, and the dimension of this is 3600 millimeters, 3400 in negative Y direction. Okay, so we enter and we're going to have this section that way. Then the next thing we're going to draw is this section. So we pick rectangle tool again, and then we click on this point and we enter the dimension of this to be minus 1400 in negative X and minus 2000 millimeters in the Y direction. Okay, so we have that portion. Again, we repeat rectangle tool and then take extension of 225 from here. So this is going to be 225 millimeters, and then we can now trace this point and this point, and this is going to join up this way. So select rectangle tool and we're going to draw this other section from where we have the stair. So we take 225 millimeter wall thickness and we press enter, and then we're going to enter the dimension of this other part, which is 1200. That is minus 1200, comma 2375, and we press enter. So from there again, we repeat rectangle tool and we take reference from here. We enter 225 millimeters wall thickness, and then we press enter, and then we enter the dimension of this to be minus 2575, comma 2375. and we press enter. So we have that portion. Next, again, we repeat rectangle tool, and we have other portions of this plan. From this other side, we have the bat. So we select rectangle tool, and from here we click and we move towards this way, and we enter the dimension of this to be 2200 minus 2200 and then 1375, and we press enter, and we have that portion there. Then repeat rectangle tool, take reference. From here we enter wall thickness of 225, and then we enter the dimension of this portion, which is minus 3600 millimeters, comma 3250 millimeters, and we press enter. Repeat rectangle tool, and from here we can take extension of 225 millimeters wall thickness, and we just trace this point and this point. So we're going to have this portion that way. Then next we're going to repeat rectangle tool, pick this point as a reference and enter 225 millimeters, press enter, and then here we enter the dimension to be minus 3725 and minus 3000 millimeters in the y direction. Okay, so we have that portion that way. So we can redraw this. This was not accurately drawn, so we delete this portion. Okay, so we're going to select this and delete. Okay, so we select our line tool, our rectangle tool, and we give 225 millimeters as extension. Then we can trace to this point and trace to this point, and that we're going to have this. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to draw this inside passage. So this will be 225 in millimeters for wall thickness, and then we press enter. Then we trace to this way, and we can trace back, or we can just join this up. Later on we're going to explode and then cut into part of this building. Okay, so when we're done with this, we have one more section. So this is going to be the veranda side. So we click and we trace to this point. We have 225 millimeters for wall thickness, and we press enter. Now when you're done with that, you can delete the inside layout of the wall. Okay, so we select erase, and that will be deleted. So the next thing, we're going to explode some of these rectangles and see how we can trim and join some of these lines. So we select this rectangle, we select this, and we're going to select this rectangle, and lastly this rectangle. So we're going to explode them. So you type X on the keyboard and press enter to explode. So when you're done with that, we can erase some of these lines, and then we use trim and press the shift key to extend and trim where we don't want these lines. So we trim and we extend, we trim this line and we trim this, and so we have this portion this way. So let's look at our layout. So next thing we're going to do is to extend this, and then we're going to trim this line, and then we can erase this line. So this is what we're going to have as the layout on the first floor plan of this building. So the next thing is to see how we can add our doors and our windows and so on. So before we continue with that, select the entire plan and type J to join all the parts that have been exploded. So type J on the keyboard for join command and press enter. So we have all the plan or all the sections joined once again. So the next thing I'm going to do is to copy these windows. Already in part 1 of this tutorial, I've showed you how I was able to create this window, so I wouldn't waste time to repeat the same thing. I'm going to copy it directly from here and then paste it on the second part of this, or in this tutorial, in this plan we are drawing for the tutorial. So select this window and then right click and select similar. So that is going to copy all the windows which we have in this plan, and then you can select copy command, and we select this point as our base point, and then copy it to this point as our base point. So you can see that the windows are neatly placed in this plan. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to select the door and right click as well. We select copy or select similar. So that's going to select all the doors, and then we can copy and we select this point as our base point, and we're going to copy it to this part of this plan. So we have all of this. Now the next thing is to do is to trim out some of the parts which we don't want. So I'm going to do that in a fast forward mode. Quickly, I'm going to trim out the part of the doors and that of the windows. Okay, so when you're done trimming this, you can see that the windows and the doors are well placed in this drawing. So the next thing we're going to add blocks, and then we can bring in our text and other things. Okay, so as I told you in the first tutorial, there is no specific way of drawing a floor plan. Okay, so your plan is based on what your client wants and based on the site where your plan is located. Okay, another thing to consider is the rooms that are contained in the plan has some standard dimension. So you're going to draw your plan working with these standard dimensions, and these dimensions you can even Google it and get standard dimensions of the various rooms that are contained in a building plan. Okay, having said that, we can now proceed and copy some part of this drawing. Already I showed you how to produce this stair in part 1 of this tutorial, so I'm going to copy and select similar. So that will copy all the steps, and then I can say copy, and I'll select this point as my base point, and I'll copy that to this position. So I have my stairs placed this way, and then the next thing is I will explode and trim this part so we can have an opening. So select line tool, and I'm going to draw from here to this point, and repeat line tool. I'll draw from here to this point, and then use trim, and we can trim this off, and we trim this off and this off. So we have that portion that way. So the next thing is to do is, okay, let's apply hatch. We have a hatch here, but before we do that, in the veranda and the balcony we have a different section. So instead of having a wall thickness outside, we're going to draw just a rectangle. So that is going to be this. We're going to draw from here to this point, and we can now erase this other rectangle. We don't want that, so we repeat trim and trim some part of this. So we trim that. So we go to this side and do the same thing. So repeat rectangle, and we can draw from this point, and we go this way, and then we delete this. So we erase, repeat trim and trim this part, and we trim this part also. So this is what we're going to have in this plan. Okay, so we can now apply hatch to this part of the plan. So to do that, remember you have to type H for hatch command. Okay, but before we do that, let's put our text first. Okay, if you're done with this, we can now bring in our block and our text. Now let's go back to our layers and turn off the dimensions. Okay, let's turn off dimensions, and then we can turn on the block. Okay, so we still have the block in the last plan which we have still showing up. So we're going to turn off block once again, and we come back to this plan. We can select this and move this out of the way. So we move it from this point, move it up, and we can turn on our block, and we're going to turn on our text. And you can see this is what we have in the ground floor plan, which is still showing up. So we can just select all of these and erase. So we're going to erase this, and then we can bring back our first floor plan which we already have. So we select that and we move it from that position down to where we want it this way. So now after we do that, we can select the block. So we select and say select similar, and then we can also select all the blocks which we have in this plan, and we copy it from this position to the new plan which we are doing. Okay, so select all of these and copy and move it from here to this point. In case you're watching this video for the first time, you don't know how to bring in this block, please go back to the part 1 of this video. Already I explained how you can get the block from the art center. Okay, so you will go back to part 1. I will leave the link of that video in the description of this video. Now the next thing we're going to add is to copy the text. So I'm going to select copy and right click, select similar. When once this is selected, I go to copy, and I'll select this point as my base point, and I'll copy it to this point. Okay, so you can see that everything we have in this plan is the same thing, right? So the remaining thing we have to do is to add the hatch. So for hatch, we go back to our first floor plan or to the floor plan, and then we type H for hatch command and press enter, and that will give us the option to be able to add hatch. So we just pan this way and select this point, and then we select this point and we press enter. Then we select this hatch again, right click and select hatch edit, and then where we have pattern, we go to the pattern and select this pattern and click on OK, and we set the scale to 40 and click on OK. So guys, that is how you can draw a building plan using AutoCAD. So we've covered part 1, which is base, or which we draw the ground floor, and in part 2 we are looking at drawing the first floor from the layout of the ground floor. Okay, so that is that about drawing plan in AutoCAD. I hope you like this video. Please do subscribe, press the notification icon to get updates on my latest video which I'll be posting. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next tutorial.